Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's episode of the Daughter Dears podcast. I'm Simone Canego,
And I'm Olivia Canego.
and our podcast is all about authentic mother daughter conversations. And today we are actually going to be talking about authenticity and embracing who you are. And
Hmm.
it's something that I talk about a lot, it's something that I write about a lot. And it took me, I mean, you're young, but it took me, a long time to get to the point where I felt like I could truly embrace who I am without worrying about what anybody else is thinking or
Yeah,
without caring about that.
I still don't know if I know who I am.
But you're trying. Are you trying to be someone else or are you trying to figure out who you are? Because
Oh,
those I think are two different things.
I'm trying to figure out who I am, but I think sometimes I don't know if it actually comes off as I'm trying to be someone else. But it's just like I feel like I have some clashing parts to my personality. No, when I say that, can I name any of them? No, but
Mhm.
um, I don't know. It's all and I'm sure who I think I am now won't be who I am like next year.
Yeah, I mean, definitely when you're younger, you change quite a bit. But like for me, when I was your age, I always felt like I was trying to be someone I wasn't. Like the only place I felt like I felt really secure and comfortable was when I was horseback riding.
Okay.
I had my friends there. I didn't have to pretend to be someone different. You had to wear the clothes you had to wear to ride, right? You got dirty.
Yeah.
It was not a big deal. But then in school itself, I always felt like I had to be someone I wasn't. Like if you wanted to hang out with the cool crowd, you had to do what they were doing. I remember smoking cigarettes when I was in high school because everybody else was doing it. Did I like it? No, I thought they were disgusting. Um, but I did it because everybody else was doing it. And it's
Yeah.
funny because I don't feel like you guys do that so much. I mean, do you feel like you do? Like I'm talking about like, for example, Millie. Like she doesn't she she worries about what other people think, but she's not going to do something like
If
if
you
someone
don't.
said, "Here,
Yeah.
yeah, here, smoke the cigarette." She'd be like, "No, thank you."
Yeah. I mean, I don't think it's like something that as a whole generation has gone away. I feel like not necessarily, even if it's not like intentional peer pressure, people still conform themselves to fit in. Like, yes, to an extent, there's a lack of traditional bullying and traditional peer pressure, but there still is like the expectations that you'll just do something because everyone else is doing it.
Well, I think there's always those expectations. Like, but can you think of a time where everybody else was doing something and you're like, "No, I'm not doing that." I mean, you're the kid that what is your
Like,
hobby right now?
yeah,
You needlepoint. I
crocheting.
mean, you
I don't
crochet.
needlepoint. I
Sorry,
crochet. Excuse
that's
you.
grandma. Yeah, you
Yeah,
crochet. Ooh, yeah, you crochet. I mean, like that is not something typically 20-year-old
yeah.
girls
I
do.
mean,
I love it.
like, I just know what I like and what I don't like. And definitely when I was younger, as in like the beginning of college, I would just do things because others were doing it, like going out and partying. But now, eh, like I do it when I want to.
Hmm.
But I have like set that boundary in my life that if I don't really want to do something, I'm probably not gonna do it. Regardless of like what it is, I guess. I mean, schoolwork aside.
Was it
But
a
I mean,
mindset shift, or what do you think it was?
well, yeah, I think it definitely was. It was like an active choice I made to like put up boundaries and be like, I'm not doing it because I don't want to do it. And I just don't think like a lot of people do that or even think to do that. Um, and like I'm definitely a people pleaser. It's just like I know when enough is enough, I guess, for me. And
Yeah,
I know my like limits on just like everyday interactions, and I know when I'm done
interacting.
interacting or just like I'm trying to think like peer pressure. I don't know. I don't really get pressured into doing a lot of things.
Yeah, but you also now surround yourself with people that you feel really comfortable with, which I think like you go through these different stages in your life, right? So when you're um, in middle school and high school, there's a lot of peer pressure and even your friends change from school to high school. So you've
Yeah.
kind of got to go through those things again. And then when you get to college, you kind of figure out who your people are, and that's who you surround yourself with. But now you're going to step into something new, right? Either when you go off to law school, you got to find your people again. And then when you finish
Yeah.
law school and you go out into the real world, you got to find your people again, because I can tell you, for me, I experienced this like in each step of my life. So I remember when we moved to Texas, I felt like I had to do things a certain way. Now I was still young. I mean, I was 21 when we got married, and
Mhm.
we moved to Texas when I was 21, and most of the people we were hanging out with were in their 30s, right? So I'm
Yeah.
like trying to figure out, where do I fit in here, and how do I make myself fit in? And so for me, the way I could fit in was like by doing what everybody else was doing, whether it was like taking golf lessons, taking tennis lessons, things that I truly didn't. I mean, I like tennis kind of, but things I didn't really have an interest in, just so that I could feel like I was part of the group.
Yeah. Um, and like, is that it's like a fine line though, because is it just like adjusting to make friends, or is it just not living authentically? Whoa.
Well, yeah, both, because I think that,
Yeah.
it's not like I asked them to do the things that I wanted to do. I kind of said, "Oh, they're already doing this. This is what real grown-ups do. This is what I should be doing."
Okay.
So I think that I wasn't being authentic to myself, because I just wouldn't do those things if I were, right? And
Yeah,
going to
exactly.
these events that we went to, that was I same thing when we moved here. Something very similar is, we had to, it was kind of like, it was almost like part of marketing, I guess, like getting known, for your dad's work. Like we had to go to these, we felt like we had to go to these really big dress up parties, right? Like you had to go to all the charitable events, whether you like the charity or not,
Yeah.
or you just felt like you had to do those things, because that was, well, you felt like that was what was expected, right? And I can
And
tell
I
you,
think
these
to
days
some
I don't
extent
do
it
that.
is. Whether that's even just like going out to drinks with colleagues after work. There was one particular time this summer where it was a group of people that I wasn't necessarily friends with, but I was like, oh, well, and I didn't really want to go, but I went simply because I was like, oh, well, like I have to meet people and I don't know, just like experiment with different people within your work setting. Because who actually wants to go out with coworkers? Granted, like some of my coworkers are friends, but like in general, I don't think like extending work after work is everyone's favorite thing to do or anyone's favorite thing to do.
Well, I don't know. I kind of feel like that through work, that's where you meet a lot of times that's where you meet your people, that's where you meet your spouse, that's where you meet your
It's very
friends, because
interesting
you're hang
that that's how
your
we.
microphone's all messed up again.
Oh, is that? Sorry, I was somehow I keep turning it.
You're a twister. So the
I'm
microphone, just because you guys aren't going to see what's happening, every time she has a microphone that is, it works like much better from one side, and she likes to twist it as she speaks, almost like it's a lollipop.
I don't even
And then I
notice that
can
I'm
stop
doing
hearing you
it.
as much. Yeah, I know. I'm ordering you a new one, babe.
Okay,
Yeah,
thanks.
you're welcome.
Appreciate it.
Uh huh. Okay, keep going.
Um, it's just weird that people meet their people through work. And I mean, that's what you school is like work, and that's how you meet your friends now. But it's just like a weird part of adult life, I guess, that I didn't really expect. Because in my head, it kind of like not like seems taboo, but it's almost like there needs to be a line between personal life and work life. And by making friends with your coworkers, you're kind of getting rid of that line.
But how do you meet people otherwise?
I don't know. Could not
Yeah.
tell you.
Yeah, you meet them through work. I mean, most people, they meet their friends through work. I mean, think about Shan, for example. Like every time we travel with her friends, they were all people that she met in work, right? She met
Yeah.
John in work, I mean, even though I was like working like as a student, I mean, that's where I met your dad too, through work,
Yeah.
right? So I think, and then when you get older, and if you're a stay-at-home mom, you meet your friends by playgroups, right? Where you bring your
Yeah.
kids, and that's how you make a lot of your friends. So it's just wherever you are in the moment, that's kind of how it is. And so for me, I felt like so many times I had to reinvent myself based on the next step in life. So, and you'll feel that way too. I mean, but it's always it's so important that you stay true to yourself. I mean, we're talking about life in general, but I can tell you, even for me, going to these events and feeling like I had to dress a certain way, which that was the expectation. I
Yeah.
absolutely hated that. That was not something that I ever liked to do, was to get all dressed up for these events. And I want to say about, I think it was pre-COVID, maybe it was just post-COVID, like when things were starting to open up again. Um, I went to this event and it was, and I knew it was going to be fancy because all of these women, that's how they dress. They dress
Yeah.
fancy. And I was invited to go and I said, I want to go, but I don't dress like that. I don't wear heels like that. And so I wore a nice jacket with jeans and fancy sneakers. And I can't, I had several people come up to me and say, um, oh my gosh, that was so smart. You're so lucky. I'm so uncomfortable, but I felt like I had to dress this way because I knew like it was going to be dressy. And I said, yeah, I'm not worried about what anybody else thinks anymore. Like I want to
Yeah.
be my authentic self.
Well, and I think clothes is like a huge way that people show their authenticity.
Hmm.
Um, and I think, I mean, I went from a high school with a pretty strict dress code. I mean, I think I still expressed myself through my clothes in high school in a limited manner that I could. But that's like a lot of cases is that people get just thrown into college for the first time after having like a pretty strict dress code or a uniform, and then like kind of struggle to figure out. And that's why trends exist, because people don't know what they like individually and just kind of follow the whole. And not to say that like, I don't even know, but I think it's like really interesting when you see freshmen for the first time just like being able to dress how they want, especially without parents watching. And that's a big deal as well. And the first couple of times they seem lost, I would
Yeah.
say.
Well, also food choices, right? I mean,
Oh, for sure.
you're, well, alcohol, we know like that's a struggle for kids when they first get to college, but food choices, like, there's kids are so used to whatever their parents are feeding them, or if they don't buy candy in the house, they're not eating candy, and then they go off to college and it's all of a sudden like the buffet is open, right? And
Yeah.
every kid that hasn't experienced some of these things before, it's like and that's why they call it the, what do they call it, the freshman.
Freshman 15.
Yeah. So I mean, again, I mean, that's not about authenticity, but it's about like getting used to your next
Well, yeah,
environment.
just like figuring out to how to become your authentic self is like through independence, and being independent like sucks. And regardless if that's, well, like it does, because for the first 18 years of your life, regardless if it's like a decision on what you're wearing or like a decision on what to think, there is someone guiding you in that. And then you get to college and sure you have your parents, but you not as close as they were before or whatever. And you're just kind of, it's the first time where you're expected to kind of like think for yourself.
Yeah, and that's not so easy sometimes, right? I
No,
mean, you're
no, it's really
and
hard just to be able to make a decision without any other input. I mean, I struggle with that all the time.
and
And then
even
if you
y-
don't have that other in, if you don't have, or if you have that input in there, is it like, is that decision authentically yours? I don't know.
yeah, I was going to say, with every decision when you're home, your parents will, they can be that guiding light, or what, not guiding, but that guide for you of, you know, hey, you're going out tonight, you're not drinking and driving coming home.
Yeah,
You're going to, you have to be home at this time, and then you go off to college, and then you have to make these decisions, and you have to decide, okay, who am I going to be? Who am I?
yeah.
And how do I want to go forward in the world?
You just have to reset, I
It's a
guess.
lot sometimes.
Well, I want, yeah. I think like the fact that we do college at 18 is kind of insane. I mean, I was 17 and going, and I was like, what? I can't even vote, and I'm just independent all of a sudden.
Yeah. I mean, independent in certain ways,
In
obviously.
certain ways, just
You're
like by
not,
myself, I guess.
yeah. And you have to make these choices for yourself. It was still funny, actually. Um, Ari, his first week at college, he called. So he's been there now, what, 2 weeks?
I think so.
And he he's done laundry at home and stuff, but like these are different machines. So he literally, I when we went there, I showed him how to do stuff, and then I he FaceTimed me the first time he went to do laundry. He's like, "Is this the washer or the dryer?"
Oh my
And
gosh.
I was like, "Seriously, man." But it's that they're so used to having someone help them with things. Now
Yeah.
he's really good at figuring stuff out, but still, sometimes it takes a second, and it's nice to have like someone to guide you with things. But he's at a transition right now where he's deciding who he is, right? Like he's about
Yeah.
to start. He's gonna guess he's gonna go through Rush and
I
join a
had a
fraternity,
total dream
and
about that last night where there was two kids from my high school class that went to High Point where he goes. And in my dream, I was like, well, one of you guys has to make sure that he gets a bid. Okay. I haven't talked to these people in 4 or 5 years now, but I don't know why that was on my mind.
it's so funny. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, so and then how does he stay true to himself because he is a kid who is very authentic.
Yeah.
He doesn't fall for the peer pressure stuff. He's the kid who when he's tired at night, he goes home. Like there's no friends saying, "Here, you got to stay out, you got to drink this." He just is like, "No, thanks." Even to the
Yeah.
point where um and I know we mentioned this on a previous episode where we were at a mom son weekend and his friends got a bit out of control and they were all planning on going to the Bahamas like right after graduation, and he just said that night he was like, I'm done, I'm not going, I don't want to babysit, I don't want to have to worry, I just and
Yeah.
they're like, come on, Ari, you got to go, you got to go, and he was like, no, that's not for me, I don't want to do it. And you know what, it's funny because for him it works really well. Like they totally respect him, and they're
Well,
like mad. They're upset that he's not there, but they're not like, "Oh, you can't be our friend anymore because
yeah.
you're not, So
But that's like the hard thing about college, though. It's like, well, will you make friends if you just don't do the things?
yeah, I do think you will. I think you make the friends that are like you, right? Like everybody's looking
Yeah.
for a different experience. And the same thing when you're grown up. Like I went through different friend groups, right? Even
Yeah.
with kids, right? Until you find the people who kind of match you the best and understand that hey, you're not, and because I am not the person for you. If you want me to be texting you every day or calling every day, I am not the person
Yeah.
for you. I just don't have that. I don't have that time. And you know I know everybody's busy, and like you make time for what you make time
Mhm.
for, that what you really want, but there's days that are still hard. And with 6 kids, something pops up every day. It doesn't matter that
Yeah.
only two of you are living full-time home now. It's just that it's constant chaos. So it's like for a long time when I first had kids, I felt like I had to be someone that I really wasn't to make sure I was part of this friend group. And over time I realized that wasn't for me. I want to be able to be who I am
Yeah.
and not worry about it. And we all have these trial and errors. So you'll see it in every next step of your life.
Yeah. Do you want to do news articles today, Mom?
Oh yeah. You want me to go first? I'll go first with
Yeah.
my
But before we get into that, just a reminder that we are the Daughter Dearest podcast on, I think, Instagram and Facebook. And you can also find us on all of the podcast streaming platforms. So if you like, please give us a rating and comment and maybe even share with your friends.
good job, Liv.
Thank you.
Yeah, see, I would have forgotten to do that. So on today's Freaky Florida, now this isn't so freaky, but obviously we just had a hurricane come through Florida, Idalia. I don't even think that's how you pronounce
Yeah,
it.
I don't know how you would say the
I
name.
try to say it like Vidalia, but it's not that.
Yeah.
It's Idalia, I think. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyways, we were again always preparing for the worst because you just don't know where the last few storms have turned before they were supposed to. Now this one actually stayed pretty close on track to what they predicted,
Mm-hmm.
and it was a devastating storm. Again, it now what was crazy is that we had our area had a lot of flooding because when you're to the right side of the hurricane, you get these huge storm surges, right? So it to the point where I saw, and this isn't part of Freaky Florida, but some areas were so flooded they had like sharks swimming like in their
Oh
front
my
yard.
God.
Can you imagine?
No.
And they had, alligators in places there they weren't supposed to be. And but there was, of course, there was a lot of damage, and to places that this storm hit near Cedar Key, where on the West Coast, where they hadn't had a storm in 125 years of this
Wow.
magnitude. So the water's really warm. It's kind of crazy out there. But anyways, one of the big complaints that was happening in the state of Florida is our main grocery store in Florida is, or one of the biggest grocery stores in Florida is called Publix.
Hmm.
And Publix decided that they are no longer going to make hurricane cakes.
What?
So, see, Floridians are unhappy.
Wait, what the
So,
heck? I
so
mean, it is insensitive,
well, I think that's what they're thinking, is that it's insensitive. So
but
they
it's the
would they would
South.
they would make yeah, everything is insensitive in the South. Is that what you're saying? They would make, if they would, as soon as a hurricane was coming, they would make hurricane cakes, literally cakes decorated like a hurricane and
Yeah.
with the name of the hurricane on it. And and it was like, I hate to say it, but it was kind of like a tradition for Floridians
Yeah.
to get a
People do
hurricane cake.
hurricane parties and you bring a cake to the party.
So this is what it says. Floridians are not happy with Publix after the supermarket chain announced they'll stop making hurricane cakes to respect victims of these natural disasters.
I mean, yeah.
So, I mean, it makes sense, but people are upset about it, but
Yeah.
Publix is like, this doesn't align with our values. They would sell elaborately designed hurricakes, poking fun at the extreme weather events. Sometimes these humorous desserts would trend on social media. Instead, the retailer will find ways to delight them with their favorite Publix items as they prepare for uncertainty. So, and these cakes, like they were really pretty. Like, I love Publix cake. Thank you,
Yeah.
Publix. I love Publix cake. But they would they're all colorful, but it is insensitive, right? I mean,
Oh,
what do
for
you
sure
think?
insensitive. For sure
So,
something they should have stopped doing a while ago.
and you know what? No matter what you do, people are upset. So, like, you take them off the
Yeah.
shelf, people are upset. You put them on the shelf, people are upset. But the fact that it made like national news, that
That's kind
people
of
were
weird.
upset about the hurricane cakes being taken off the shelves, that maybe says a lot about Florida right there.
I mean, it's definitely like, yeah, it's the cakes are for celebrating, and you probably shouldn't celebrate a hurricane hitting.
Yeah, I mean, it's very difficult to find insurance in the state of Florida now, all of these things. So
Crazy.
yeah, we shouldn't be like, and all the victims, I mean, people have lost their homes. And again, we got a notice from our insurance company, the way, and this will just be my one aside. Now, I have like 50 asides every
Okay.
episode, but this one aside, where, so you have hurricane insurance, but that isn't flood insurance. We get our flood insurance from the government, right? And it doesn't cover much. So
Yeah.
basically, in a storm like this, where so much of it was flooding, where if the water comes from below, so if the water rises up, that's
Mhm.
flood policy. Your hurricane insurance won't cover that. What hurricane insurance covers is like if your house gets blown down and the water
Yeah.
comes from the top. So all of these people who had this flooding, they have to rely on a flood policy to pay for it, which it doesn't pay that much. So I instantly, like, right after the storm hit, I got an email from our insurance company saying that, just so you know, we do not cover flood unless
So
you have a separate
only the
flood.
government does, or they
Well,
provide that.
so they don't provide it. You still have to pay for it. But
Okay. Well, yeah,
it's like a FEMA. It's FEMA. It's
because
part of FEMA.
my renter insurance also doesn't cover flooding.
Yeah. It's so, but there is flood. You could buy supplemental flood insurance. Only some places you can get it. Like grandma has a policy because she's not in one of the main flood zones, right? I mean,
Oh,
we can't buy
that's so
extra because
scammy.
we're in a main flood zone. So
Insurance is
it
a
is
little
what it is.
scammy for my business.
Anyways,
But okay,
Oh.
living authentically.
we have to have it. We have to have it. If you have it, yeah, living authentically. So, I mean, what do you feel like moving forward? So, like, do you feel like you chose what? Obviously, we know now that you're going to be applying to law school. do you feel like that is adding to your authenticity? Because I mean, I feel
Yeah.
like you didn't fit with your major, and a lot of
Honestly,
people don't fit and then they keep
they
doing it,
stick.
right?
Yeah. I would say like career wise, that is like one of the things that I feel like I do the most authentically, just in the way of um which is this is bad to say, but I kind of put my career over a lot of like other things, and I make that clear in a lot of like friendships and just even my relationship that I'm in, that it's just like I know that this matters and this is more long term than a lot of other things. So I think in that aspect, a lot of the decisions I do make authentically because I make it for myself and no one but myself.
Which I
I
think is really
guess.
important. It's
Yeah.
well, until later, until you have a family, and then you have to think about
Oh
all
yeah,
those
of
things
course. But
combined.
like right now, I don't. I think I'm in a stage of my life that if I was like putting my relationship above my career, that would just be a silly little decision.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. It was interesting because I interviewed someone for my new book, and we were discussing the decision as a couple, like when you're moving forward in your relationship and you're trying to figure out, okay, who's going to take on the majority of the child care stuff,
Yeah.
and who's going to take, what's the right fit. And for this couple, she is a partner at a an accounting firm, one of the big accounting firms, and so she's very successful, and she they discussed from the beginning that she was going to continue with her job. Now, that, is there, I think the big thing is open communication, but she
Yeah.
knew that she could not be a stay-at-home mom. She was like, I would be miserable, I would make everybody miserable. And so, but she had to make, she lives very authentically, I believe, across her whole life. But this
Mm-hmm.
is kind of seeing that part where she said, like, we made it open communication, like this is how it was going to work best for all of everybody involved. And really staying true to herself, saying that I really want this and I'm not giving it up, which I think a lot of people give up what they really want to satisfy someone else, or to, obviously there's always times where you have to concede certain things or you have
Yeah.
to partner on things. But I think so many more people just don't do what they really want because someone else tells them that they can't do it, instead of being authentic to themselves and saying, this is what I really want to do.
Yeah. Um, and I don't know. I feel like that is majority of people because it's I guess it's really hard to live your life by yourself. There's so many factors that come into play, but it's just important to make decisions for you and like eventually considering other people. But I'm at a time in my life where the decisions I make truly affect majority me.
Yeah. And, you'll get to a point where it'll be different. But for right now, yeah. I mean, I think that's why, when I was younger, nobody really talked about being authentic.
Yeah.
They didn't really ask you, what do you want? It was kind of like, this is what you have to do. And
Yeah.
I think your generation is more open to what do you want? And, taking the time, I think even more so now, post COVID, I think that people are really making these decisions to kind of follow their own path, right?
Yeah. I think so. I think a lot of people are realizing that like you don't have to go straight to college. Because I think people just go to college because they're told to rather than they want to. Um, I don't know.
Which I think, again, I mean, we're going through that right now with Ari, right? But I mean, we said to him, okay, if you don't want to go to college, what's your plan?
Yeah, and that's
And
the important part is having the plan.
yeah, if you don't have a plan, then, that was kind of the deal. If you have a plan that, hey, I'm going to do this, I want to go be a police officer, I want to go to the fire
Mm,
academy, whatever, whatever it is. But if you don't have a plan, then it makes it really difficult to move forward with things.
yeah, yeah. Ugh. It's a lot to think about, just like life moving on and even who will I be next year and living authentically next year.
Yeah, again, it took me into my late 40s. Really, it took me into my late 40s till I really felt like I could just be who I am. And I'm not trying to impress anyone else. I mean, I still am I'm working on my wardrobe. I have
Yeah.
stuff that I can wear out to nice stuff. But I love to be in a t-shirt and leggings every day. Like
Yeah.
that's my preference. And, I really like I like graphic tees. So I like having, my whatever statement I have for the day. I mean, today is Napa Valley, my happy place, which, that's not really a statement. It's true though. But, I have a lot of graphic tees that are about, kindness matters and embrace who you are, those kinds of things.
Yeah.
But I'm not a person that really loves to dress up unless I have to. And it's not because I don't care about myself. It's because I do care about myself. It's kind of like, this is what I like. So why do I have to let someone else tell me, well, okay, you don't look good enough or whatever, when it's just what's put on us by society that, okay, you got to do these certain things to be able to fit in with this group. Well, then I don't want to fit in.
Yeah. And I mean, living authentically it's really challenging because of that aspect of not fitting in. Because even if you're living as your authentic self, which is something that should be applauded, you might be incredibly judged for it.
Yeah, but deep down, the people who are judging you are not happy with their lives, right? I mean,
I mean,
that's the way
yeah.
I look at it. And we talked about this. It's very similar to when you were in middle school to how it is now, even as an adult. That the people who criticize, the people who have nasty things to say, are really unhappy with themselves, and it really has nothing to do with you. I mean, do you
I
feel
think
that?
so. I think so.
Like, why does
Like
anybody
if
else care what I'm doing? Why?
yeah,
Why
like
does anybody care?
if you're nitpicking in that aspect, yeah, then I like why? Like you're just I mean, either you're saying it because you're bored with your life or you're saying it because you're uncomfortable with yourself.
Which I guess could be both, but most of the time I really think it's because, I mean, I haven't looked at statistics, but most of the time I think that you do these things because you're unhappy with yourself. And, when people see someone's post on social media about, and they look really nice, like people want to, I don't know, people want to tear them down for something. It's just,
Yeah.
it's a really sad thing to see that why again and this was actually the woman I was speaking to what about the you know it was so my the book that I'm writing about it is called Label Me Not, so it's all about the labels that we that society puts on us and that we put
Mhm.
on ourselves, and really how to be your authentic self throughout all this. And she was saying that it was really hard, like when her kids were little, and she didn't fit in because she was one of the very few moms that were working in that area. And
Mhm.
so she always felt like, when she would go to an event, she didn't really know the people because all of them hang out together all the time, and she didn't fit in. Or
Yeah.
she, and she's really all about family. So she was saying that when her kids were in sports, so she would take them to their practices, and instead of just sitting there and hanging out with all the moms and talking, she would be doing the work on her, she'd be sitting in her car working on her laptop, so that as soon as her kids were done, she could focus all of her attention on them. And it's again making those choices on what really matters to you,
Yeah.
and not what everybody else tells you that you should be doing.
Yeah. Because no one's like in your shoes in the end of the day.
Yeah, nobody. I mean, we people always say that quote of, "You can never judge until you can walk in someone else's shoes." Well, you can never walk in their shoes, so you really
Yeah.
shouldn't judge, right? Because there's really no point in time where you're at the exact same place with the exact same struggles, with the exact same life as this person. So why are we judging? Like, why are
Yeah.
we? And this judgment is what leads us to not live authentically, because it makes us feel bad about ourselves.
Yeah.
So I challenge everybody out there to stop judging and just start being who you are. I mean, really take a look in the mirror and say, you know, wait, this is not where I want what I want to be doing. This is not where I should be going. These are not the people I want to hang out with. I'm not saying drop your friend group tomorrow. I'm just saying really take a look at yourself and say, like, what really matters? And am I doing things that make me happy, or am I doing things because I feel like I have to and it's not making me happy at all?
Yeah,
So tell me what's happening in the world today.
I have a good one, and it's specifically New York this time. So keeping up with the country. If you don't know, it's the
Ooh,
U.S. Open. And the U.S. Open happens in Queens, New York. And the in case you don't know what the U.S. Open is, it's like the national championships of tennis, I believe. I don't know if it's national or not, whatever. But there's this news article on AP News, that it smells like Snoop Dogg's living room on court 17 at the US Open. And if you don't know what Snoop Dogg's living room would smell like, it smells like marijuana apparently. To the point where one of the contestants or competitors, she like
competitors.
she lost.
She's not on the prices right, so
You're
she's
right,
a
you're right.
competitor.
She she lost and said that the smell was the overwhelming whiff of pot during like caused her first round loss essentially. um and they've like done investigations into it, but it's just because it's in Queens and the smell of New York City, it literally says in this article, the smell of New York City is the smell of marijuana, and it's legal, so they can't really do anything as long as they're not smoking inside. So apparently it just reeks of weed at the US Open.
So it's not from people smoking there. It's
Nope,
like
they're
from the outside
so
air.
court 17 apparently is right next to Corona Park, which is just like another park in Queens where people go and smoke weed.
That's
And
so
so it's like
funny.
that fragrant, I guess,
Yeah.
that
Well,
it's like stinking up the entire US Open.
it's interesting because we were just in, and this is not the same thing, but it just shows you how this smell like that transfers. We were in St. Pete and we went into this clothing store and we walk in and it totally smelled like cigarettes or cigars. It
Yeah.
stunk and we were like, and instantly we walk in, we're all like, oh my gosh, it smells horrible. And we walk out and we're like, I cannot believe the employee in there is smoking cigarettes. Like nobody's going to buy from there. Okay, this is why we should not judge. So the next day we're walking back and what we realized because we were walking from the other direction, what we realized it was right next to a cigar bar.
Oh my
So the
God.
smell from the cigar bar just infiltrates that shop. And so all of us felt so guilty. We're like, okay, this is why we don't judge. Like this was, and everybody's like, we should go in and apologize to her. I'm like, well, we didn't say anything to her. Now we're going to make her feel bad because she didn't even know we were thinking that like she was smoking in the shop, you
Yeah.
know?
Oh my God.
So it's a very similar thing like that, it just infiltrates. So
It's
yeah, I mean,
so interesting how the world has swapped on smoking, or like at least with cigarettes, where you were saying, we're talking about the TWA hotel airplane bar, and there used to be on those planes the sections that were for people who don't smoke, and the rest of the plane was for people who smoke.
and okay, if you've been on a plane,
It's not
it
going to
doesn't
do
matter
anything.
where you sit, the smoke is
Yeah.
going to be everywhere. So it's such a crazy thing that that's how it used to work. And I was also saying, okay, my second aside, that my mom was telling me that when she used to fly when we were little, they would put us in a bassinet and it would hang from the ceiling.
This is
So
crazy.
basically, where the overhead bins were, that's where they would put the babies. And I was like, can you imagine that these days? Like, I can't imagine. Anyways, but that's a crazy story because I did see something about that on the news. I didn't watch it, so I didn't know what they were talking about. I assumed someone was like trying to
No,
distract her and smoking there, like secretly and trying, but no. Okay, no, it's a bigger problem than
New
that. Than
York.
that.
Yeah.
So
And what are
the
they
whole
going to do?
park
It's
smells like
literally legal.
yeah.
So
So and do people think that she really lost because of that, or is that just
I
an
don't think
excuse?
so. I don't.
Okay,
Me, because everyone else can smell it and they're not
yeah,
losing. So.
yeah. Yeah, that's kind of sad though, right? I mean, I can see that it would be distracting, right?
Yeah, but the whole thing in this was like you're gonna smell something, or there's gonna be some distractions. Don't hone in on it.
Right.
The advice in here, what was from one of the security guards, was try it. It might help you relax.
Oh,
I was like, oh my God, that's a good
oh,
way to make sure the US Open or you never get invited back.
Oh, that's pretty harsh. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's wrap it up for the day. Going back to embracing authenticity and my key takeaways is that you don't have to be in your late 40s to start realizing who you are. Like, really think about it on a daily basis, no matter what age you are. Do you really want to be doing what you're doing? Do you feel peer pressured to do things that you don't want to be doing and you do them anyways? Like, really start taking a look at that and kind of seeing how you can help yourself through these
Mm.
situations. And what you might realize is that a lot of the people that you're hanging out with kind of feel the same way. And you can start the conversation differently, right? It doesn't have to be all about this one person that's the disruptor or the one that's kind of pressuring everybody to do something. Like, you guys can all kind of come together and say, this is, nobody wants to do this. Because I think sometimes we make these assumptions that, oh, Olivia wants to do it, so I need to do it. Or,
Yeah.
Olivia and Anusha want to do it, so we definitely have to do it. And have you ever asked them? If you ask them, they'd be like, I don't want to do that either. Oh, thank goodness. Nobody has to do it now because, but we fail in that communication aspect, and we fail to ask ourselves what we want. We just start doing what everybody else is doing. And obviously social media makes that so much worse, right? I mean, we see what
Yeah.
everybody else is doing and we think, oh, we need the bigger house. Oh, how come I don't make money like that? Or, and again, it's a story for social media. It's not real.
Yeah. Exactly. But it's hard to do. So cut yourself some slack, I guess.
Yeah. I mean,
You're not gonna wake up authentic.
no, but you have these moments of authenticity, and from there you can build even more to figure out what you want to be doing. One of the funniest things that we talked about was that when when we were right out of college, the assumption was that, or the way it wasn't even the assumption, the way women dressed for work is they wore pantyhose and heels and
I don't know if
skirts
I
or
even own. Oh, I guess I do
suits
own pantyhose.
suits with skirts, and it was literally, that's what you wore every day when you went to an office. And people today, like my friend would tell them that story, whether they were new hires or whatever, and they would say, no, like they couldn't even imagine that someone was wearing, that would, because they wear pants everywhere they go. But she said back then nobody would wear pants to an office. Like, it was
That's crazy.
completely just a skirt.
Ah,
Um, so what's your calendar show for today?
it's actually a good one.
Mm,
Although I keep ripping off two in one go, so I'm already revealing Wednesday for myself. But keep your mind open and your commitment to change close by.
mm, that's really good. That fits in quite well. Yeah,
Yeah.
I love it. Okay.
Okay.
Any last thoughts?
I don't know. Living authentically is hard, and I'm not even sure I'm doing it. So,
Yeah. Well, at least you're aware of it. I think a lot of people aren't even aware of it. So, like, start thinking about what you want. Start thinking about who you want to go out in the world as, instead of, copying what someone else is doing. I remember being on a playground once, and well, the kids were on the playground. I was watching. I was not actually, like, on the teeter totter, but there was a woman with two kids, and the one kid, I think I said this the other day, there was one kid trying to copy the other kid, and she basically said to the one kid, okay, who, Sam's already taken. Like, there's no,
yeah.
you're not Sam. Sam's already taken. You need to be you. You don't need to do what Sam is doing, right? Like,
Yeah.
be yourself. So great.
Okay.
Thank you so much for joining us today. We'll see you next time on the next episode of the Daughter Dearest podcast. If you like what you hear, not my
Oh,
cracking voice.
yeah. I was about to
That was,
say,
that
okay.
was pretty impressive. I'm not going through puberty. Don't worry. If you like what you hear, come back more. Share it with your friends. Thanks so much. Have a great day.
Bye, guys.